this episode might come with a strange side effect. It could ruin psychedelics for you. It could ruin drugs for you. It could also ruin all the cockamamie garbage out there about psychedelics. This video is not going to be for everybody. If you love psychedelics and you're getting great benefits from them, please keep at it. Please see that through to its conclusion. Go for it. I really want you to see that, because that's how you're going to come to higher consciousness. You cannot enter higher. Spirits are trying to take my voice away. You cannot come to higher consciousness you can't be high and be in higher consciousness. You can't. You can only get there through sobriety. Sorry. Wow. But if you're still using those drugs, if you're still doing all that stuff, go right ahead. This video is not for you, honey. Enjoy your party. Enjoy your good time. But I am going to ruin drugs for a lot of people today. I'm going to ruin drugs for the people I love today too, because I'm going to make this video and I'm going to send it to them. That might be a misuse of my power. I know that, but I love this person and I really want to help them. That's what you do for people that you love. You try to help them. You don't look the other way while they're eating broken glass. You don't do that. That's not love. So on today's episode, I will ruin psychedelics for you, but we're also going to look at the science behind magic mushrooms and all of that. So if you want drugs ruined for you today, stay tuned. Just trying to help and be of service because I love you. I really, really do. So on this episode of the Shaman Patrick Show, let's ruin drugs. Let's go.
He was once a storm in human form, sharp tongue, cold soul, heart worn and torn, living like a ghost who missed his grave till the spirit sang out and called him brave. He got rewired by the great unknown, heard the call like a dial tone to the bone. So pull up a chair, enjoy the glow. This is the Shaman Patrick Show.
I don't try to force people into sobriety, and not everybody has to be sober. But if you want mastery, if you want spiritual mastery, if you want true healing, you might want to take a period away from this stuff. You might want to get your head about you. You might want to clear up some things. Like I'm not against psychedelics. Hell no. I think they're great to party with. I think they do have some value. It's just that when you start doing them over and over again, you start thinking that there's some sort of spiritual or medicinal benefit to them. That's where you can get a little screwed up. I'm also going to debut a new song today called Drugs Are Cringe. It's an earworm. And if you listen to that song, drugs will be ruined for you forever. You're never going to be able to do this shit again. Ever, 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 ever. So usually when I'm talking about this kind of stuff, people will say, Patrick, you don't understand. They're doing research on this. They're researching it right now. And I know they're doing research on it, honey. I looked up the research. I've watched countless videos, clinical videos about people trying to come up with a way to sell you these drugs. They're just drug dealers. That's all they are, drug dealers. So we are going to look at a video right now from SciShow. And this kind of boils a lot of what I'm talking. This just boils a whole lot of stuff together for you. There's other videos I thought about showing you, but they were kind of cringe. Like there was one video from this lady who is a mushroom therapist, a psychedelic therapist. And the interviewer asked her, like, so how often do people have to do this? Are they cured of it? And then she got this blank look on her face and she said, no, they have to keep coming back. They have to keep coming, but to get the benefits of it, they have to keep coming back. And I'm thinking, well, honey, that's a Band-Aid. That ain't no cure. They said it could cure depression. It don't. It don't. If you have to keep coming back for something, it's not a cure. The entire mental health industry is based on treating symptoms. Shamans are about cures. Shamans are about cures. And Last time I checked, that's what was going on with me. I'm all about cures. I want to keep people on the hook. I'm a very bad businessman too, because I'm a one and done kind of shaman. You want to heal something? Let's fucking go. One session, let's get it out. No, but see, I'm a very bad businessman. That's why we sell t-shirts. That's why we sell extra stuff, because I'm a very direct type of shaman. Whatever you want to heal from, let's figure out a way to do it. So we're going to look at this video from SciShow, and they're going to give some overviews of your brain on psilocybin.
Thanks to CuriosityStream for supporting this episode. Go to curiositystream.com/SciShowPsych to start streaming thousands of documentaries and nonfiction TV shows. Humans have been eating hallucinogenic or magic mushrooms in ritual and spiritual contexts since at least 3000 BCE. But despite how
not many people, by the way, they like to talk about this stuff about how humans have been doing it for centuries. Humans have been doing a lot of things for centuries that are crazy. I'll get more into that later.
How long we've known about magic mushrooms, we actually barely know anything, about magic mushrooms. Or more specifically, about psilocybin, the molecule that makes these mushrooms so special.
Yeah, that's crazy. Why would you take something that you barely know anything about? I remember going to see a gastroenterologist about my IBS. She was a specialist, Vanderbilt Medical Center specialist. And my husband and I sat in her office. She said, we're just beginning to understand the gut microbiome. I'm like, bitch, why am I paying you $500 if you're just beginning to understand this shit? How could you be prescribing shit and recommending shit when you don't even fucking understand it? For real.
Over 200 species of fungi that produce psilocybin, which makes them hallucinogenic. But this molecule itself isn't the one that causes hallucinations in humans. You see, the body strips off a phosphate molecule from the psilocybin to form a different molecule called psilocin. And it's psilocin that actually sends people on a trip because it binds to one of the same receptors as serotonin, which is the molecule involved in things from sleep and blood pressure to mood regulation and depression.
You don't want to fuck with your serotonin. Did you know that if you took Prozac just one time, your whole brain chemistry is fucked up? You may never get your brain back the way that it was as soon as you start fucking with that shit. For real.
Receptor is 5-HT2A, which is also targeted by other psychedelic drugs like LSD, MDMA, and mescaline. And scientists still don't know how or if molecules binding to the 5-HT2A receptor result in hallucinations, but they think
they just don't know. You don't understand. They just don't know. The scientists just don't know. They don't know. But they want to know. So the only way to know is to continue doing research on it. But they don't know how any of this stuff works. We just don't know. But here's a prescription. Even pharmaceutical says, we do not know how this medication works. I would not be able, like if I don't, it's so Looney Tunes, isn't it? It's Looney Tunes. It's crazy. We don't know how this works, but here, you have to pay for this thing that we don't know how it works. Would you take something that you didn't know how it worked? Well, yeah, you would. I would have. Yeah, I would.
It's related to how parts of the brain communicate with each other. And a way they think that psilocybin is doing this is by strengthening the connections between brain networks, even for...
Now, they think that they're theorizing this, okay? They're just theorizing it. It's not settled science. They're researching it right now. Why are so many people lining up to be lab rats?
Areas that weren't strongly connected before taking psilocybin. In mice, for example, psilocybin may actually be creating entirely new connections. In people, psilocybin increases the strength of the connections responsible for how you sense the world, while also decreasing the connections responsible for how we understand signals from our environment. And
do you know what else could do that for you? A Course in Miracles. That's what it does. All those daily lessons, that's exactly what it does. And you get no side effects either.
some scientists think this mix and match on how we sense and understand signals from our surroundings is what may cause an altered state of consciousness, one of the side effects of magic mushrooms. For right now, this research about connectivity is still fuzzy and sometimes conflicting, in large part because research into the effects of psilocybin is so new. Policy changes in the last 10 to 15 years have let researchers finally start studying not just the basic effects of psilocybin, but also the possible therapeutic benefits. These studies
Now, I'm all for therapeutic benefits of everything. I really, really am. But, everything that he just said right there, scientists are doing all this research. They think that this is how it works. They don't really know how it works. Scientists don't really know how anything works. They don't. It's called the folly of man. It's the folly of man. You learn that in the Spirits book. That humans that think science can understand everything, that if it makes sense to science, it'll make sense to them. Have fun with that. That's crazy talk. That's crazy. But the pharmaceutical industry is kind of in a mess anyway, because it was all built on some really crazy shit. Do you want to know some of this crazy shit that it was built on? Let's go here over on X and listen to this video.
Rockefeller bought up, shut down, or bankrupt 90% of the oil companies. Our good old Constitution came into place, and in 1911, the Supreme Court found Rockefeller in violation of the Sherman Antitrust Act and split Standard Oil into 34 independent companies. So they said, you can't have the monopoly on this, you're done. You think that changed who he was? No. He promised to bankrupt America. At that very same time, they were learning how to turn petrochemicals, exactly what he had at his fingertips with the oil, into pharmaceuticals. Now, John D. Rockefeller's biggest threat was natural health. So what does he do? Being the businessman he is, he donates money to the medical schools because he wants to control. And what do you do when you want to control someone? You give him money. And then he hired a guy by the name of Flexner to study the school's curriculum, to figure out what they were teaching everybody, and to persuade the government to establish allopathic medicine, which used the unnatural substances to treat diseases. This is how Western medicine was founded.
And now you know. And now you know. That's why none of those drugs really work, because they're not supposed to work. They were never meant to work. So if and I'm not saying that there aren't good pharmaceuticals out there. There are life-saving drugs that help people. And even psilocybin mushrooms can help people. I'm not talking about people who really, really need them. I think that there are people who are so severely traumatized that they need that jolt. But for Samantha, who is stressed out at her job and she just broke up with her boyfriend, no, honey, you need to meditate. You need to learn how to set some boundaries. You don't need to fuck with your brain chemistry, because I'm going to get into that later in the presentation. Stick around for that. I'm trying not to reveal too much too soon. So let's go back to this video.
Typically involve giving 1 or 2 moderate to high doses of psilocybin in the presence of at least one psychiatrist. The idea is for the patient to have a good trip experience, where the lines between themselves and the world around them break down. This lets them feel connected with the world. One of the areas of therapeutic interest is for people with treatment-resistant depression. This type of depression occurs in about 10 to 30% of people with depression, and it's what it sounds like. People whose depression either doesn't respond or keeps coming back after they start taking antidepressants. In one early study, researchers treated participants with treatment-resistant depression, and about 2/3 of them responded to psilocybin 1 week after treatment, and 60% still showed improved depression scores 3 months later. Only a few studies have been done so far, but they seem to suggest that psilocybin can improve depression scores pretty dramatically.
One of the things about depression that I know is because there might be something going on in your life that's making you that way. You might be in a relationship that's fucked up. You might hate your job. Your husband might be abusing you. So I think taking drugs to treat that kind of shit only numbs you out to it. It makes it easier for you to tolerate an abusive situation. That's primarily why I would be against using things like this to treat things like that. Because the chemical imbalance theory has been exposed as a myth. There's no such thing as a chemical imbalance because they don't know what a chemically balanced brain looks like. But I bet you that your brain chemistry is more balanced when you're not taking drugs. I mean, I've experienced that. You know, as a former meth head, let me tell you that it takes a while for your brain to get back to normal. It takes a while for your brain to heal from all that stuff. 7 years from the last time you did meth. And I have been sober for over 7 years. It was like flipping a light switch. I had brain fog. I had a lot of mental shit going on when I quit taking meth. But, you know, it's not just meth that affects your brain in that way. It's MDMA. It's any type of drug that messes with your serotonin and your dopamine. The more you fuck with that kind of shit, you're gonna have to have more and more drugs to sort of regulate yourself. It's science. It's science.
And that there are pretty large improvements when compared to a placebo. And compared to traditional antidepressants, which require a daily dose, hallucinogens can show months of benefit after just one. It also seems...
And studies show that for drugs that people take for depression, placebo works just as well. Placebo works just as well. There's a book about it, and I don't know the name of it now, but even the manufacturers know that drugs don't really work, but consumers want them. So they're just giving people what they want. I mean, it's what I do.
Seems like when it's combined with therapy, psilocybin can be pretty good at helping treat addiction too. So researchers have looked at alcohol and cigarette addiction also. And again, all of these studies are pretty preliminary, but in a study of people with alcohol dependence, participants drank less frequently.
And I think this is really irresponsible because you're presenting people who are alcoholics. You're presenting them with a drug that will help them stop drinking. And I know there are some severe alcoholics. And I know that I myself used to be one. But, you know, total abstinence from all intoxicants is sobriety. And if you introduce an idea that an addict or an alcoholic can take another drug instead, that's crazy. I can't imagine that. That's nuts. Do you believe that? That it's kind of like the people who are in narcotics, like addicted to opiates, and they take Suboxone, and they're still taking drugs that are still numbing them out to reality itself. Why would you want to be numbed out to reality? I know, but when you get sober, you realize you don't need anything at all. Like, I'm glad that maybe mushrooms can help get people away from drinking every day, but I think it's really irresponsible to introduce drugs to as an alternative. Like, I was on naltrexone and gabapentin and an ADHD drug to help get me off of drugs and alcohol. And when it was time for me to come off of those drugs, I came off of those drugs. So I'm not saying that there can't be things out there to help people get over their dependence to drugs and alcohol. But to introduce mushrooms, an illegal drug, that's crazy, because mushrooms like the ADHD drug I was on, it never really got me high, but I can imagine like mushrooms are just too damn fun to party with. They're like the ultimate escape. They may help people stop drinking, but the people are not addicted to the substance. They're addicted to the escape that it provides them.
And had fewer heavy drinking days for up to 2 months after getting psilocybin treatment, which is less compared to just doing traditional therapy once a week. And for smoking cessation, one study showed that 80% of participants were smoke-free after 6 months, and 60% were still smoke-free up to 57 months later after just 2 or 3 doses of psilocybin.
And here's a lie. It's easy to quit smoking. Nobody told me. It was pretty easy to quit smoking. But the big lie is that they tell people quitting smoking is one of the hardest things to do. It's so hard to quit smoking. It's easier to quit heroin than it is to quit smoking. It's not. It's not. It's easy to quit smoking. Just don't buy the cigarettes. But you have been programmed to think that it's so hard to quit smoking, that it's so hard to quit. Oh my God. And it's actually not. Actually, nicotine's not all that bad for you.
That's almost 5 years. But one big question for future psychedelic research is whether it's possible to get the benefits without actually tripping. So scientists looked into microdosing, which involves regularly taking super small doses of psychedelics, small enough not to trip, but enough to feel a positive mood boost. And a team of researchers has been exploring the possibility of a non-hallucinogenic psilocybin-like molecule that also binds with the 5-HT2A receptor that might give the antidepressant benefits without the high. And while
let's create a new concoction. Let's do. Let's break this down into parts. See if we can get through the blood-brain barrier. Oh my God, man-made horrors. Man-made horrors.
While it might seem feasible to have some of the
side effects of that are that you may not want to live anymore.
Good effects without the trip, other researchers aren't sure that tripless psychedelics will work as well. That's because there's some evidence that people with more intense tripping experiences have better therapeutic responses.
I bet. I mean, I'm glad that I took psychedelics. I'm glad. I don't regret doing it at all. But also I knew that they were just a fun party drug. I knew that they were just something to have some fun with and to not take all that seriously. But if I were and I've said this before, if somebody told me that there was a spiritual benefit to these, if somebody told me there was a medicinal benefit for these, I could still quite possibly be really fucked up. You know, psychedelics fucked up my husband. They fuck up a lot of people. Okay. And to treat this shit so casually is very irresponsible. Psychedelics can definitely fuck you up. They fuck with your brain chemistry just because they're natural. Just because people call it plant medicine doesn't mean that it's not a highly dangerous psychoactive drug. Like, do you remember those LSD horror stories? Well, the same shit happens on mushrooms. Like, you can go to some pretty dark places with mushrooms, but why risk the trip? Why risk it at all? Why risk it at all? Ooh, it's crazy. It's crazy.
On the other hand, getting the benefits without the trip would be great, because while psilocybin is non-addictive and really difficult to overdose on, there can still be side effects. Things like paranoia and anxiety while tripping can put people at risk of physical harm, and sometimes even more long-term psychological problems.
So here's the thing I want to talk about. Why risk it? Paranoia, anxiety, physical harm, long-term psychological problems. I've seen people with long-term psychological problems. Our good friend Aubrey Marcus has psychological problems from taking too many psychedelics. Why risk it if you don't need it? You know, they're trying to treat depression and trying to treat all these things. But meditation works a lot better. Getting out of bad situations works a lot better. Taking a risk, getting a new job. Why aren't people talking about working out? Why aren't people talking about how going to the gym can help with depression? Helps with mine. Working out. I mean, all of these things, you don't need them. That's the thing that I'm trying to get across today. You don't actually need the damn drugs.
But it's hard to really draw any firm conclusions because of the drug laws that make psilocybin hard to study, which means there just hasn't been a lot of research done. And the studies that have been done tend to be pretty small. Importantly, the clinical trials of psilocybin that have been done involve having a therapist present for the entire trip, and then more therapy in the days that follow. But it seems that research on psilocybin has a promising future, but only time will tell if it will go mainstream as a formal therapeutic. If you'd like to learn more about the fungus among us, you should check out today's sponsor, Curiosity Stream. They're a
Okay, well, I'm not sponsored by Curiosity Stream, so I won't go there. But so now that we've looked at like a presentation, science, they're just nobody knows about this. And I know many people who do mushrooms. They're not sitting in a therapist's office. They're in the woods with some dude named Sam who may not have had a shower in a few days. So people who are really into this kind of stuff, they're not trained to do it. They're not especially, and it's illegal. Yes, some therapists have clearance to do this, but it's not widespread, and scientists don't even know how it works anyway. Why do people fight so hard for a drug knowing that it's not even necessary? And plus, drugs are cringe anyway. It's in the new earth, drugs are cringe. You don't need them. They are completely unnecessary. So let's get started with today's presentation. This episode of the Shaman Patrick Show is brought to you by our addiction and recovery collection over on our website at concreteshamans.com. We have shirts available for your needs. In addition to the drugs are cringe shirt, we also have one of my favorites. It's medicinal. It's medicinal. We also have, I made this for somebody, I'm cuter on ketamine. So if you want to support the work we do and get something really nice for yourself, please do so. Go on over to our website at concreteshamans.com, and we will be happy to serve your fashion needs and maybe some of your other needs as well. All right, so let's get to this presentation. You don't need psychedelics. Your body is the damn medicine. I'm hearing the sirens going off today. They're turning on the sirens. I'm going to make this as clear as a glass meth pipe. You don't need to fry your brain, vomit in a jungle, or blast off into hyperspace to heal. You're not broken. You're chemically functional. Your body is a fucking pharmacy. It can make every compound you need to evolve, expand, and transcend. But in a culture addicted to shortcuts and spiritual spectacle, people want magic pills, magic plants, or magic trips that'll fix them without having to actually do the work. Spoiler alert, it doesn't work that way. And I've said before, I wish it did. I wish it totally did work that way. I would love to have gotten a ketamine infusion to help me with my IBS, but I would have to continue receiving ketamine infusions to help with my IBS. I might have healed, but I would have been missing that magic component of healing from shit. You actually have to feel the pain. I'm not saying it's fun, but once I resign myself to, well, I have to feel the pain. And here's why you have to feel the pain. Whenever you're high, or whenever you spiritually bypass, whenever you refuse to deal with a painful situation, that pain has to go somewhere. Usually it goes off to the side into what Eckhart calls the pain body. We call it a wound core. Other people have different names for it, but it goes there and it stays there. And as long as you're high or microdosing or not dealing with shit, it's there. You're just not dealing with it. And over time, it becomes conscious. It becomes malevolent. It becomes like a demon, so to speak. And over time, this demon can actually cause a lot of pain and suffering in your life. And it's relying on you being high and numbed out so that you never feel it. You never deal with it. So I knew I was going to have to deal with this demon of pain. I was going to have to deal with that shit. So I couldn't take pills for it. Couldn't take pain relievers for it. I had to actually feel it. It was from a lifetime of escaping this pain, you see? And eventually it just came down to this. I've been trying to escape it. I've been trying to run from it, but I'm going to have to feel it and line up with it and just feel it. So even today, like yesterday, I had a really bad stomach cramp and flare. And I have to feel it to heal it. Why would you have to feel it to heal it? So you don't do the same shit ever again. So that you don't get involved in abusive situationships. Because it hurts. But if you're drugged out and numbed out, you don't know that you might be living in hell. But you don't feel the flames because you're high all the time. And I wish there was another way. I wish there was a magic pill to take. But that's the reason why the pills don't work, because you never deal with that demon of pain. You have to face that shit. And when you actually feel the pain, it's over like that. Like I've been in pain for about 5 years, off and on. Sometimes it's been really bad, but I know there's going to be an endpoint to it. I'm not going to be in pain like this forever. And the only way to get to that place is to actually feel the pain that I didn't feel for 45 years of my life, you see? So I'm able to chew through 45 years of pain in about 6 or 7 years. Sign me up for that. Sign me up for that. But people are afraid of the pain. They don't want any discomfort. They don't want it at all. But it's the quickest route to healing is feeling that pain in sobriety. It is. Otherwise, you're just going to keep bypassing and being stuck. And here's the problem with playing chemist with your brain. Psychedelics like LSD, psilocybin, ayahuasca, DMT, they jack into your serotonin system like a hacker crashing your motherboard. Specifically, they bombard the 5-HT2A receptor and start rerouting the entire control panel of your mind. Sure, it feels profound in the moment. Ego dissolution, waves of oneness, visuals of sacred geometry. But here's the dirty little secret. You're not being healed, you're being disrupted, and disruption does not equal transformation. Let's break this down. What psychedelics actually do to your brain. This is something that sorcerers who feed you drugs or non-serious shamans feed you drugs. I don't feed people drugs because I don't want to harm them. You see, I'm a very safe and serious shaman. And once you know the harmful nature of this stuff, you're very unlikely to do it. So yeah, maybe in other cultures, shamans don't know that they're hurting people by feeding them drugs. They may not know. I know, okay? I know. But Patrick, you just don't understand. You don't get it. We need these drugs. We need an ego. You don't understand. Okay, I hear you. I hear you. But I think it would be irresponsible of me to at least not inform you of how these drugs affect you and affect your brain. What psychedelics actually do to your brain? Well, they scramble your default mode network. That's the system responsible for self-awareness and introspection. Psychedelics turn it off, which can feel freeing until it doesn't come back online properly. And that happens to a lot of us. Psychedelics also induce neuroplasticity sometimes. Yes, some studies show psychedelics may boost brain plasticity, but guess what also does that? Meditation, fasting, cold plunges, breath work, shadow work, things that don't melt your face off. Learning a musical instrument and making art can also help with neuroplasticity. Guess what else can help with it? Starting a YouTube channel. Becoming a content creator. There are so many things that can help you with your neuroplasticity. Doing things for fun, doing different things, getting a new job. Like you're not as hardwired as you think you are. You're not. There's lots of things that can do that can help you with your neuroplasticity. I think learning a musical instrument, learning how to sing is also something that can help with neuroplasticity. It's just so many people get out of the learning every day paradigm. They just stop learning new things. They get stuck in their ways. And it's really hard to jolt them out of that. So sometimes people need those drugs to jolt them out of just the everyday doldrums. But get a VR headset. That helps with neuroplasticity. There's a lot of things that help with neuroplasticity, and you don't. And when you introduce drugs, it could break your brain. It could really break your brain. Also, psychedelics fled the prefrontal cortex, leading to warped perception, emotional volatility, and reality distortion. Translation: you're high, not enlightened. You're high, not enlightened. This YouTube is ate up with enlightened microdosers, and they say all this cockamamie shit. And I'm not even going to play any videos from them because we all know who they are. It's like, hello, welcome. When you sense in the, I can't even say it. I don't even want to look at that stuff because that might make me sick again to look at it. But the enlightened microdosers, the ones who have it all figured out, the ones who are just above it all, the ones who are bypassers in chief, the love and light crowd, they're just above it all. They're not above it all. They're fucking high. They're fucking blasted out of their minds. It's easy to not have to deal with ego stuff because when you're microdosing, the ego isn't around. The ego is low. What actually makes you feel high, what actually makes you trip is the ego receding. And you can train yourself for the ego to recede. Our book will help you train the ego to recede. No drugs necessary. But that's what that high feeling is, the ego receding. But you can learn how to do that. Hey, I can make people trip. You want to trip? Let's meet up. Let's have a chat. I can make you trip just by talking to you. No drugs necessary. Serious shamans don't need to feed people drugs to make them have a spiritual experience. I can make you have a spiritual experience just by hanging out with me for a few minutes. Patrick, we need the drugs. I don't want to talk to you for 5 minutes. I want to get high. Please, we need to get high. Please. Honey, I have been there. I know it. I used to argue for my addiction as well. I used to argue for that shit. I did. So here's the thing about psychedelics: short-term fun, long-term fallout. Sure, you might get a good trip, but you also might get hallucinogen persisting perception disorder, HPPD, where the visuals never stop, flashbacks, or even permanent psychosis, especially if you've got unresolved trauma or latent mental health conditions. And if you're doing this over and over again, that's not sacred. That's addiction. I am shocked as shit we're even having this conversation in this day and age, where we're even talking about legalizing marijuana, legalizing psychedelics. And the only way they'll become legal, have you noticed this, is if they have a therapeutic use. So don't you think they're lying about the therapeutic use? Aren't you curious if they really have a therapeutic use? What if they're lying about that therapeutic use just to get them legalized? Why aren't you asking more questions about this shit? I am. I still have more questions. Why do things have to have it? Because we tried to get them legalized for fun. So if we can get them legalized for a therapeutic use, we might be able to get them legalized for fun. Drug addicts can be very convincing, but I don't know a stoner today who is happy. I don't know any happy stoners. They don't know how unhappy they are because they're too high to care about their lives falling apart. This is wackadoodle. I can't even fucking believe it that we're having this conversation. Everybody must be just too high. But it's natural. But so is hemlock, genius. Let's cut through the it's from the earth nonsense. Cyanide is natural. So is poison ivy. Poison ivy is natural, but you're not going to rub that on your ball sack, are you? Or maybe you will. Some of you people out there are really sick. Natural doesn't mean good for you. And don't come back with the ancient cultures used it argument. Ancient people also practiced bloodletting, slavery, shit eating, piss bathing, cannibalism, and child sacrifice. Let's not cherry pick our history to justify our escapism. Romans used to brush their teeth with their own piss. So just because ancient cultures did it doesn't mean that we have to. We should know better now. We should know better to not brush our teeth with piss or eat shit or even sacrifice children. Haven't we evolved? Haven't we grown? That's crazy, isn't it? Well, I hear this a lot. Well, indigenous cultures have known for centuries. I'm like, what the fuck does that even mean? What the fuck does that? Indigenous cultures knew what exactly? Now there is Rockefeller medicine. I know that, and there are some time-tested cures. I mean, I'm from Edgar Casey's hometown, so I'm all about natural medicine and natural herbs and spices and all of that stuff. I'm really into that. I don't want to have to take a pill for anything that I don't have to. I get it. But ancient cultures believed a lot of cockamamie shit too. And when you pick and choose, like either the culture was right about everything or they were wrong about everything. We can't cherry pick stuff like that. It's kind of like relying on scientists to tell it, like, they don't know how any of this stuff works. Why introduce it into your body or your brain or your life? And once you do, what happens? Well, here's the chemical overcompensation spiral. When you introduce external chemicals into your body, even sacred ones, your internal systems start freaking out. Your brain overcompensates. Receptor sites downregulate. Neurotransmitters go haywire. You build tolerance. You need more for the same effect. Eventually, your body stops trusting itself to generate the good stuff naturally. You've outsourced your healing to a molecule. Congratulations. You're spiritually microdosing codependency. And you can know how this is happening because of the way of how upset people get when you try to take away their drugs. People who get upset when you try to take away their drugs, they're in a lot of pain. They need the drugs to deal with the pain. Patrick, you don't understand. How do I know all this? Because I fucking lived through it. But you can't be an expert on any of this stuff unless you have tried to be sober for at least more than a year. And I mean real sobriety. Because here's the thing. The real trip is the sober reality. You want real ego death? Try facing your shame sober. Try sitting in silence while your inner child throws a tantrum. Try letting your triggers teach you instead of numbing them with divine downloads. The real medicine is uncomfortable. It's raw. It doesn't come in a powder or a pipe, but it lasts. Psychedelic healing is temporary. All healing that you do with outside substances is temporary. It's not going to last. They'll even tell you that it's temporary. So being a shaman, I'm about permanent cures for things. That's primarily why I cannot in good conscience promote psychedelics or any type of drugs for healing, because it's a temporary thing. It doesn't last forever. It'll give you a temporary relief. But while you're seeking that temporary relief, you're missing out on the blueprints that your body already has. Your body knows how to heal. It's been doing it since before you were born. But healing takes time, patience, and here's the big one, presence. Not trips, not visions, not interdimensional vomiting. Stop trying to hijack transcendence. Sit your ass down, feel your feelings, and let your nervous system do what it was designed to do. Because the more you fuck with your body, you're interrupting the natural healing capability within you. You know, that Rockefeller medicine stuff, it got people thinking that they had to go somewhere else to heal. Sometimes the easiest way to heal is just go into a room with a pad of paper and sit there for 8 hours for about a week. And don't drink caffeine, and don't just that'll clear a lot of shit up for you. It'll clear a lot of shit up for you. Not drinking caffeine for a while. I mean, I'm back to drinking coffee now, but I went probably about 100 days without drinking caffeine. And I broke my addiction to that. Take away the numbing agents. I mean, I didn't ejaculate for over 120 days. I think it was 120 days, because I might be using sex to numb out too. When you take away those numbing agents, the real healing begins. And I want real healing for you. I would love it if you got to experience real healing. It would be incredible if you got to experience that real healing. Why would I promote anything else other than the real healing? And here's the thing. As a shaman, I am going to tell you, watch out for the spirit hijacking. This is an unseen risk. When you take psychedelics, you're not just opening your mind, you're opening the door. And guess what walks in? Not just visions and colors, but spirits, entities, parasites, tricksters, pseudo-learned beings who mimic wisdom but feed off your vulnerability. These spirits love altered states because that's when your defenses are down and your discernment is shot. Are you trained to deal with them? Do you know how to tell a guide from a manipulator? Most don't. And that's how people get spiritually hijacked, doing someone else's bidding while thinking it's their soul mission. Spoiler, it's not. It's possession dressed up as enlightenment. And I can't say this enough, but there's a lot of pseudo-learned spirits in the psychedelic space. If you don't know anything about pseudo-learned spirits, they mix truth with fiction, and it ends up sounding kind of true. So a lot of people who promote psychedelics and all this stuff is healing and all that, they're just ate up with spirits. They're ate up with pseudo-learned spirits because they'll use jargon, they'll use science, they'll use that stuff. They're subjugated by spirits. They're doing the bidding of those spirits who want to use mushrooms and psychedelics to get inside more people's heads. They're spreading their influence through the psychedelics, lowering people's defenses. Because if a spirit can find a way to break through those defenses and set up shop in your energy field, they will do that. And that's what's happening when you take psychedelics. You're putting holes in your energy field. And are you sure? Then what if an entity sets up shop in your energy field? Do you have a shaman on speed dial that can help you deal with that? I've told people this. I go, entities? What do you mean entities? These are shamans. Some shamans don't even know what spirits are. I've talked to some so-called shamans. I'm like, what are your spirit helpers like? They go, spirit helpers? I don't need spirit helpers. I do this all myself. I'm a famous, fantastic shaman. Spirits, get out of here with that shit. Oh, boy, what kind of shaman are you? Spirits. Oh, some of these sorcerers posing as shamans are just ate up with some of the nastiest pseudo-learned spirits. And I do feel like it's my duty to tell people about that. If you see something, say something, right? But you don't understand, Patrick. It's medicinal. You're not getting, I'm using this for medicine. It's not about getting high for me. It's medicinal. It's medicine. It's being researched right now. You don't get it. They're researching it right now. And I'm doing my part for humanity by doing my own research with this guy named Sam that I met in the woods. And he's taking me through these trips. He's training me to be a therapist in this. I'm going to be a medicinal mushroom therapist. You don't understand, Patrick. That's what I'm doing. Why don't you get it? It's being researched. Follow the money, not the mushrooms. The reason psychedelics are being researched so aggressively isn't because scientists suddenly care about you. It's because companies smell a profit. Big Pharma is desperate for a new revenue stream now that everyone's caught on to the fact that most antidepressants and anxiety meds don't actually work long term, but people are still desperate for relief. So the game becomes, what else can we sell them? Enter psychedelics. If they can patent a psilocybin delivery system or brand a therapeutic LSD microdosing protocol, that's billions in profit. Not healing, profit. This isn't about mental health, it's about market share. And if you think these studies are purely altruistic, I've got a DMT vape pen to sell you. But be suspicious of research backed by shareholders, which all of it is. But if there's money in it, they'll find a way to call it medicine, even if it wrecks your nervous system. They don't care about you. That's why they made vegetable oil. But finally, here's what we get to. This is the ultimate truth about all of this. Drugs are cringe. I mean, let's just say it. Drugs are cringe. There's nothing cool about lying to your nervous system so you can feel something for 5 hours and then spiral for 5 days. There's nothing enlightened about chasing a high because you can't sit with yourself sober, manipulating your chemistry because you're too impatient to do the inner work. That's not mystical, that's pathetic. And the worst part, people pretending it's sacred while they disassociate, flail, and call it healing. It's not healing, it's hiding. Drugs are the ego's favorite escape hatch. And every time you take them, you're basically saying, I can't face reality, so I'll outsource it to a chemical. And that's cringe. And we're talking about the behavior of people on these drugs, these cringe ass behaviors, stealing from your best friend, destroying your relationship with your brother, destroying other family relationships so that a person can stay fucking high or drunk. It's pathetic. It's cringe. It's just cringe. So in the spirit of that, I have a song for you. It's called Drugs Are Cringe. It's really a bop. It's catchy, and I think you're going to like it. But I do want to say that if this helped wake a few people up today about how cringe psychedelics are and that whole lifestyle around it, psychedelics can be administered by people who know what they're doing if it's in its proper place. But let's be honest, people aren't doing that. People aren't clearing out entities and stuff like that. I mean, romanticizing indigenous cultures can also get you killed as well. Psychedelics are not necessary. And many people will take these just to escape the painful reality that they are in. And I think it's just a good idea to stay away from them. They're not necessary. They're not needed. And they can actually be a lot damaging to people. Lord knows that drugs ruined my life. And when my loved one got involved in psychedelics, it ruined my relationship with him. It ruined his relationship with his brother. Many people in our family no longer speak to each other because of our loved ones' insistence that they get on psychedelics. So if psychedelics are such healing and are such powerful medicine, why did it cause that in our life? Why do psychedelics, when people take psychedelics, why does it tend to cause a lot of drama, a lot of sexually acting out, a lot of lying, a lot of cringe ass behaviors? For things that are so powerful healing, I don't see a whole lot of healing going on with this stuff. What I do see is a whole hell of a lot of cringe. Thank you for watching this video. If you'd like to support the work we do, please like and subscribe, comment, or use an emoji. If you've got nothing to say, share this content with others. Join this channel, support the work we do, and get access to members-only videos and features. Thank you for watching and growing with us. So without further delay, let's get into drugs. Drugs are cringe.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you thought you were deep, now you're just dehydrated. Talking third eye, but your vibe's outdated. Spirit journey, nah, that's just your dealer's basement. Acting woke while your rent ain't even paid yet. Molly in your system, now you're hugging on a stranger. Preaching about consent, but your actions feeling danger. Loving light, with a baggie in your bra, but your karma's looking messier than Florida law. You ghost your mom, lot of friends, play your dad's guitar. They call it just a phase, like your brain ain't sure. You think you're cool when you slur and spin? Let me be real loud.
Drugs are cringe. Cringe like a virgin on a first date kiss. Cringe like an Instagram ghoul blowing one last wish.
Cringe leg flexing when you sleep on a bench.
I got the unspiritual if I'm offended. I cringe like kill from your own best friend. Cringe like line when the truth might mend. It ain't deep, it ain't smart, it ain't some friend. It's just weak, manipulative. Drugs are cringe.
Used to be fly, now you smoke in your mom's garage. Popping pills like candy, talking about massage. Chakras ain't aligned, bro, you fried your aura. Claiming God spoke through your mid-euphoria. You're the main event at the sad loser ball. Blew all your chances, and then blamed us all. You think trauma's your past to abuse and binge. Let me say it again.
Drugs are cringe.
Looking like a glitch in a PS2 sim. You ain't cosmic, you just caught in a grim little whim. Your third relapse, that's not divine fate. It's you refusing to mature past the 8th grade.
No hate, just facts, I see what's real. You traded your soul for a temporary feel. You call it freedom, but it chains and ride. A puppet to the powder, and you call that high. Cringe like a man in a gas station fight. Cringe like a text to your ex late night. Cringe like a healer who scams on the side. Spin like a shaman with a coke fuel cry. Cringe like blaming vibes for your theft and lie. Cringe like denial and bloodshot eyes.
You ain't cool, you ain't slick, you ain't the Grinch. You're just broke, brain fried.
Drugs are cringe.
If you gotta alter your brain to feel worthy, if you gotta numb out to not feel dirty, you're not healed, you're just running from pain. But the high wears off, and the cringe remains.
Drugs are cringe. Drugs are cringe.